If you've been enjoying R4E, the Reason for Everything podcast, please be sure to like, follow, and subscribe on all platforms or wherever you get your podcasts.
And so, yeah, like I said, I came across your Will It Sourdough series on Instagram. I had to talk to you. I want to learn more about that. Again, my feed is flooded with people making sourdough, making different desserts, different pizzas, whatever it is. And this caught my attention. I was like, I got to talk to one, how you came up with this idea, and two, and doing more background and research on your kind of story as to how you got to where you are caught my attention. So I wanted to chat with you, hear it right from the source as opposed to articles I read or scrolling back on your Insta. So with that, I'd love to give you a chance to introduce yourself to my audience. I imagine, is Hercules Noble a stage name? That's my first question I have for you.
I know, bro. I get asked this at work all the time. Hey, it is my actual name. Yeah, just very, very quirky parents. Yeah, and not named after the Greek god, actually. Named after, do you know the Hercules planes that used to fly in the world wars?
I'm not sure if I'm familiar with it. I'm sure if I saw a picture, I'd recognize it from a textbook, but tell me more.
You would, yeah. They were one, and they fly very low. You see them occasionally. Well, you do in New Zealand at least, and the UK. Giant planes, not too long, but big bellies. And so they used to carry tanks and things in the wars. And the saying goes, I was born in the UK, the saying goes that my mum and dad were driving to the hospital as mum was going into labour, and they saw a Hercules plane, and they're like, oh, Hercules.
Okay, man.
And you have a week or so to mull over the name, and luckily I stuck with it, or they stuck with it.
So you were born in the UK.
Yes.
But you're a Kiwi, right?
Yes, Dad is a Kiwi, Mum's British.
Okay. Now, where'd you grow up?
We moved over from the UK to New Zealand when I was 7 years old or so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, in doing some background work, saw that you've kind of always had a knack for, all things culinary. When you were a kid, you were interested in it, but it wasn't until you were in school studying for a design degree that you got that part-time job at Little and Friday and really dove into the kitchen.
You've done your research, Arjun.
Man, I tried. So I want to know, from your parents seeing the Hercules plane fly until getting that part-time job, what was your relationship like in the kitchen from point A to point B?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely have early memories of being in the kitchen. And my dad used to work in the hotel industry, so he sort of knows a thing about hospitality, knows a thing or two about hospitality. And so he always was the chef in the family, and I do have early memories of sitting next to the oven, a particular oven actually called an Aga. British listeners will know what that is. An Aga is a quite a big oven, the size of a nice big desk, and it's always on, which is kind of ridiculous, but it acts like a heater, which is, very good for the English weather and temperature in the climate. And so I have memories of sitting next to that with my dad cooking when I was younger. And I always sort of enjoyed cooking. And then I went to boarding school and I actually got I dropped off to become a day boy. So, at boarding school, I was living on school for 1 week, and then I'd go home on the weekends. But I actually dropped to become a day boy in my final year of school, and I started watching Jamie Oliver, and it's so ridiculous, but that's kind of what really got me into food. I always enjoyed it, but that was when I was like, oh, I really want to start cooking and experimenting, because it was kind of like a way of expressing creativity, which I hadn't found yet in life.
What's a day boy?
Standard school, 9 to 5, 9 to 3, or 8 to 3. Yeah.
And this was in New Zealand?
This was in New Zealand, yes.
And so you went to be a day boy. You started watching Jamie Oliver. You went to school for design. You didn't, go to culinary school. You didn't follow a trade.
No. I've never worked or learnt well in the classroom. I don't have ADHD or anything. I'm dyslexic, but I struggle unless it's hands-on, and I never really excelled at anything in school. I was all right on the sports field sort of thing, but it was once I once I got out of school and just got a part-time job in a kitchen by chance, that was the first time in my life where I was like, oh my goodness, I really like what I'm doing. I feel like I have I'm committed to this, and I got so much satisfaction out of it.
And was that Little Friday, or where was that?
That was Little on Friday. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, I'm very, very lucky that I got that job. Hey, I think about that from time to time, about how lucky it is that I actually went and did that, as opposed to just sticking in university for another few years or something, because I was going nowhere.
Yeah, I think about those sorts of things all the time, right? Like, there's so many times where you've gone left instead of right, and it happened to be the best decision ever. Maybe the worst decision that got you to the best point in your life. Oh, when you were at Little on Friday, I mean, going from that job there to where you are today, did you ever think that, being a private chef, being a content creator was even in the realm of possibility for you then? Or what was,
No.
What the future for you in the kitchen, at least?
Yeah, I mean, dude, that was 10 years ago this year that I got that job. It was my first year out of school. I'm 28 now, and I got that first job when I was 18 or just about 19. And thinking back to it, I didn't know the direction that I was going to go in. I barely knew, social media had been around for maybe 5 years or so. But that was before, I guess, influencers or whatever, or food grammars became a proper thing. And I just didn't know where I was going to go with it. But I think I feel like I got very lucky in a sense. But when you do something because it feels right, often you do get led in the right direction, I think. Yeah, so I do feel very lucky that I did that.
I couldn't agree more. And one of the things I feel like I'm preaching now after talking to people like yourself over the last, year plus is just like going out and doing things. The best way to figure out what it is that you like to do. And
yeah,
it's so easy to, like I said before we started filming, it's so easy to just sit on your couch and wait for that piece of inspiration to hit. But the people I think in life that are rewarded are the ones who get up and just try new things, because you don't know what's on the other side of that door of
that's exactly it. Hey, Arjun, like, you don't always, people, I think especially these days as well, people really want to know, what am I going to get from doing that? Like, if I take this job, am I going to be given this role in 3 years' time? I want to know that that's where I'm going. And I don't blame people for that. But also, this is something my mum's always said to me, you never know what is going to come from saying yes to something, or putting yourself in a foreign environment, because it might, like the sourdough thing, the sourdough thing is, I didn't know which way that was going to go, but I wasn't doing it because it was a clear career, like, it wasn't a strategic move. It was just me putting something out there, trying different things and seeing something that worked. And then it sort of led to more social media growth. And suddenly that means more for my business. It means more opportunities for me, which is I kind of feel like I've fallen on 2 feet. You know what I mean? I've lucked out in a sense with how it's all gone. But yeah, I guess you don't get there unless you give it everything and you do what you are passionate about, in a sense.
It's a flywheel, right? Like, if you hadn't said yes and taken that job and kind of gone through that waterfall of decisions, you wouldn't be where you are. So you wouldn't have found the sourdough series being as sticky as it's turned out to be for you. No pun intended there.
Yeah.
But what I'm curious about in your seat, I mean, I feel like I'm 27, and so right in the same boat as you. I feel like kids our age I feel like we were still maybe in school, maybe it's societally that all of our decisions are so permanent, which obviously, that's a blanket statement, and there's, important things that people need to be taking seriously. But for the most part, everything's so impermanent, I feel like. And people are so scared to try new things, take that risk because they think that whatever decision they make is permanent. Again, obviously, there's things on the fringes that are, and it's like, whether it's a risky decision, whatever, right? Put that on the side.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like, again, people are rewarded for trying new things and recognizing and failing fast, failing quickly, or failing sometimes just means realizing you don't like this one thing, so you can go try something else.
Yeah, but now you know.
But now you
as
know,
opposed
exactly.
to not knowing. Yeah, agreed.
Yeah. Now, from your job at Little and Friday, what was the next jump for you? Did you stick around there for a while? What was that like for you?
Yes, so I worked there for nearly 2 years, I'd say, working my way up somewhat. And then I was looking for a unique experience. I think I was 20 or 21, and I was looking for my first proper overseas experience. New Zealand is very far away from absolutely everything. And I was thinking, all right, I need to go overseas somewhere. I need to see a different culture. And I got I asked my dad, to help me think, what could I do? And Dad actually used to work at a vineyard in the south of France. And he said, I have the details from these people, and you could probably go over there and help them out for the vendange, for the harvest period, which is runs for about sort of a month to 6 weeks. And you could just go and be an extra hand there in the cellar for an experience and to see a different culture. And so we got in contact with the vineyard, and they thankfully said, yes, you can come and help out. And so I found myself working there for what ended up being about 2.5 months. And I started off just helping out in the cellar, just as an extra set of hands, but quickly became their sort of resident chef, which was such an amazing experience because it went from working in a kitchen where you are learning a lot, absolutely, but there's a lot of repetition. You're doing, the same thing almost every single day. Very rarely does it change. And this was my first experience where I was confident enough to cook and to go and do whatever I want to do and allow the creativity to be expressed, which was such a fantastic experience, especially in France, in the south of France, where you have access to some of the most incredible produce in the world, So that was definitely a huge experience for me, hey. And I built a fantastic relationship with the people there, with the owners, and proceeded to go back every single year for the following 3 years at that same period of time and do the exact same thing. And whenever I'm in Europe now, I do make sure I go back and see them.
Between harvests, what were you doing? Were you going back to New Zealand and working back at the restaurant there?
Yeah. So I did do a bit of work in the UK, in London, briefly for about 6 months or so. And that was my last full-time job in the kitchen, which was 2017, I think, or maybe, I think 2017. And after that, I took a big break because I was absolutely exhausted, knackered. It was more than anything I'd ever done before. And so I don't know how some chefs do it. Hey, they stick to that and they love it, or they push through and that's their life. It wasn't for me, although I learned a lot. So I took time off and I went back to New Zealand over Christmas. Obviously in New Zealand it is summertime over Christmas time. So I had a summer off. And in that time I was spending a lot of time with family, which was nice, which I hadn't done much of in the previous few years. And went and spent a lot of time up at the Batch, up at the holiday home. And a family friend said, hey, do you want to do the odd dinner party for us? And that was my first private chef gig, which I didn't think anything of there, but I was like, oh no, I can make a bit of money while I'm working while I'm having time off over summer, which is good. And then it kind of went from there, where a few of their friends that came over said, oh, Herc, could you do something for us? And then it kind of picked up a bit of steam, and I guess that was about 4 or 5 years ago. And some, really awesome opportunities came from that. I worked with some of the families. I did some work in New York in 2019, which is amazing. I did some work in the south of France again with them, which was awesome. Yeah, What else?
Let me ask you this.
Go on.
Let me ask you this one. So I think about, when I'm going through school in 2017, we're at the same time we were going to the Southlands for harvest. I was like, hey, I gotta make as much money as I can now to be able to, spend time with friends, travel, whatever else. Maybe that's the, coastal, United States coastal programming in my head of, okay, gotta go to school, get a job, make good money, provide for family. That's the kind of set routine. But when you were doing that, what was it like? Were you worried about, setting yourself up financially for the future? Were you worried or thinking about, like what was that like? Because in my head, I'm like, I would have loved, drop out of school. I love golf. I would have loved to have gone and worked as an apprentice in golf and learned all that stuff. But I was worried about making ends meet. What was that like for you?
Yeah, I feel like I'm very lucky that I've got supportive family that supported me to do what I wanted to do, and just help sort of steer me in the right direction, but were ultimately not too hands on. And I think I'm not sure what it is like here in America, having heard you say that, but I was just doing what felt right at the time. There was no plan whatsoever, and it was only really once I hit probably 24 or 25 that I started thinking more about money and where it can go. Because if I was thinking about that then, I probably wouldn't have been able to start working in kitchens, because you're working effectively, especially someone who's unqualified, for the first 2 years, like minimum wage,
Yeah, that's what I was
minimum wage. You're not earning good money. And so I think back to then and I go, I can't believe I did drop out of university and go and do that, because it's not a sustainable income, I don't think, if you want to have a life. It's not a sustainable profession if you want to have a social life as well. So it's only probably inside the last few years, maybe like 2 or 3 years actually, that I've started to make good money and realized that I can make good money from doing what I'm doing. I feel quite lucky that I wasn't put under too much pressure.
Yeah. It's almost as if I'm not 100% tracking. It's almost as if, because you weren't thinking about that in your early days, understanding and getting used to what the kitchen life was like and honing in on your craft, because you were so present and in the moment and not, mental mind time sucked away from and thinking about the future. You were so present and focused on your craft. You're able to refine it properly to get to where you are today. If that makes sense.
Yeah. I'm very lucky to have had that sort of environment around me, and I think it's not fair on I don't know what kids between the age of 17 to even to 22 or 23 to expect them to know exactly what they're going to do, and this is what you're going to do for the rest of your life. And that pressure is applied. And I say 17, sort of 16 or 17, because that's when you're told, all right, you got to start thinking about what subjects you're taking so you can get into university, and all that sort of stuff. We'll get into college. I'm very lucky, hey, that I didn't have that pressure and was allowed time to find my feet and figure out what I wanted to do and what felt right to me. And I'm very lucky that it was food. Hey, very, very lucky.
Now in 2017, 18, as you're doing some more of these private chef gigs after that dinner party that you were catering for, at what point did you start getting into the realm of social media? Like I said, I came across the blueberry Will It Sourdough series is my gateway drug to her. But at what point did you start posting about your food content and food journey on social?
I was very nervous at first to post on social media. I think like a lot of people were, and maybe still are, because I gave a shit what people might think. You feel like you, and it's so silly now. Like I remember thinking about putting up a photo of myself in 2016 or something and being like, oh, I wonder what people will say, or what if I put up a photo of my food and it doesn't get enough likes and I'm embarrassed or no one comments on it. And I think what happened is I hit a point, and I think it was during probably 2020, where I think Instagram took away the like count in 2020.
Yeah.
And that was a moment where I went, holy shit, no one can see anymore, so I don't need to give a shit. I don't need to be worried about not getting the likes. And that was when I started posting a bit more content. And in lockdowns in 2020 was when I really that's when I started to make sourdough. And so I started sharing more of my sourdough experiments on social media, really. And then, shared a bit more of my developing private chef career, and different. You don't get the content right straight away. This is what I always say to people whenever people ask me about, how do I start making my own content? It's like, you're creating short form content for people to consume and probably consume once. You're not gonna get it right perfectly at the start, like right away. So don't fixate on this piece of content that could be 15 to 90 seconds long. You're not going to get it right, and the world isn't going to see it. So just start trying different things and slowly create a style of your own, a format of your own. I look at what other people are making when it comes to content, and write down what you enjoy about that content and the way they've shot it. And so just keep trying stuff, because I started filming all my day as a private chef. I would do voiceovers for a while, and then that never really gained much traction. And it was when I had the idea to do the Willet sourdough, because series became a thing, and that was only like a year ago. I think that I started only a year ago.
Yeah,
and that's when I started getting traction.
Okay. Now, I have a bunch of follow-ups on that. The first of which being, was there a video that you had that went like crazy viral, or was it pretty gradual rise up?
Yeah. Like I said, I started the series and I was still figuring out what my content style was. I did the voiceovers for it. I shot it in different ways. I put music over the top, whatever. And, people were interested because it's a fun concept. And I think it's a concept that people haven't seen before. So the question of will a dish go into a sourdough? And so it immediately attracts people's attention. But one day I shot it. I shot an episode and I didn't have time to do a voiceover. And so I just put it all together. I think I was getting on a flight or something silly like that. Put it all together and shot it quick, like 0.7 seconds. And it was all ASMR, So it was all the little sounds along the way, all the little bits and pieces. And I think that was a Biscoff sourdough that I did.
Yeah.
Also Biscoff, people, especially Americans, absolutely froth it. They love it. And that was the first video that really started going well. And that ended up getting about 1 million views, which was, I was like, holy shit, that's mad. So after I saw that, I finally realized, I was like, okay, I've been throwing shit at the wall for a while, and I finally stumbled across my template. And I know now, I've got an idea, I've got a template, I can just rinse and repeat with a different idea every time, a different dish, lemon meringue pie, whatever. And so the one that really blew up was the carbonara sourdough.
Yeah.
Which is not my biggest video, but it got to 12 million views on Instagram, which over the course of about 2 or 3 months, it was one of those videos that just had a big boost and then sort of kept going. And I thought, holy shit, this is crazy. It was my first, I guess, experience of a video blowing up. But what I noticed about that as well is that I didn't make it in a traditional carbonara with the traditional carbonara ingredients. I made it, instead of using guanciale, the cheek bacon or the cheek muscle, I used pancetta, and I used grana padano cheese instead of pecorino. And the Italians did not like that. And so I got all sorts of like comments, and people were arguing in the comments. And all that does is create more engagement. And I think that's a big reason why that video blew up. So I learned from that I'm not out there trying to irk people, but I am trying to give people a reason to comment. And that's what I learned from that video.
No publicity is bad publicity. Now, for that particular video, I'm assuming you were still running your own social media at this time, where I'm sure you had notifications off, were you just checking it and getting those notifications saying, 1,000 views, 5,000 views, 10,000 views, 100,000? Like, was that surreal when you would open up the app at whatever time, maybe after your morning coffee or whatnot, sitting down, taking a quick scroll and seeing, holy cow?
Yeah.
Was it like overwhelming? What was that feeling like for you viscerally?
Absolutely. I mean, I remember quite clearly the sort of following week after it just kept going and really started to take off. It felt awesome. We all do it. We all put stuff on social media and hope that people are going to like it and say, oh, that looks so good, whatever. And it's not a healthy thing. And it wasn't a healthy thing for me at first, because I would wake up, and I've always tried to have a good, I've always tried to be in touch with not looking at my phone right away in the morning. It's not a healthy habit, and not relying on the notifications for dopamine hits. But that was like the following 2 weeks or so, that would be the first thing I do in the morning. I'd wake up and be like, let's see what someone said now. Because there would always be like an extra 20 comments or something, or people are sharing it. And that made you feel good, and that was exciting, but also not great, because you were relying on social media for your dopamine. Yeah, it was all messed up, absolutely. But I have a much better I have a much better relationship with social media now, and with what I post. I will post a video and I won't be sitting there. I'll respond to comments and things like that because it's fun, and I'll respond to either a hater saying something silly, and I'll have a laugh with it, because you can't take what people say in the comment section seriously. And I'll respond to the people that say they love it, and just that's a really nice feeling, because I think there is a difference between seeing someone comment and go, that's actually really awesome, I love that, I'm going to try that, or no way, I've started making sourdough and I'm going to try and put a carbonara themed sourdough together now. Or you get a notification seeing someone has tagged you saying, here's my carbonara inspired sourdough from Hercules Noble Food. And you're like, that's very cool. There's a big difference in that, and hearing someone say, oh, I love your content, I love the way you shoot it, you've inspired me to do this. This is, have a look at the photos of the food that I create or something. That's really cool. I love that, because that feels like more of a connection, and it feels like I'm having more of an impact on people, as opposed to just, comments being...
It's less transactional.
Or likes.
More community oriented, I feel like,
Yeah, exactly. When there's just comments or likes, when it's just likes, that's purely my ego. But when there are people saying that I've somehow impacted them, not on a deep level, but I've inspired them to make sourdough or something silly like that.
Right.
That's a really nice feeling. It feels like you've had a positive influence on someone.
And it's interesting your point on, you were throwing paint against the wall for so long, and finally something clicked, which was the sourdough series. It's interesting, like, there's so many people on Instagram that I'm sure you see. They're all the viral coaches. Hey, here's what you need to do for the algorithm, and put this track and use this caption, whatever. And there's definitely a way to, gamify it and marketing guru it to the max, where you're able to follow the trends and whatever. There's a way to do that, and I feel like there's, massive creators online that are able to leverage those techniques to use their existing platform plus the math and of the algorithm platform, right? But I feel like in your kind of tranche of content creation, which is you have a tight-knit community of people that support you in the margins of hundreds of thousands of people. And the way I feel like someone in your shoes grows isn't by following the, marketing tips. It's creating more unique Hercules content that no one else can replicate. No algorithm can try to quantify or try to qualify by any stretch. And hey, here's what I think is cool. And if you guys like it, great. If you don't, I'm going to make another video tomorrow. To your point, it's that volume and the idea of making perfection perfection the enemy of great. You can't let that happen in I feel like the world of creation that you're in, which is doing stuff that you like and care about, because that's the way to do it.
Agreed. And from those, those gurus, those social media gurus, you can learn a lot from them. Absolutely. And I do follow a few of them, and I save little videos that I think, oh, he's mentioned something good there, or because I'm not great at writing down a format or a template, like I just do things and I notice they work and I go, all right, I do that again. Cool. But it's actually very interesting for me to see someone kind of explain why these things work. But in saying that, I agree 100% with what you're saying when if everyone tries to do what these gurus say, it's not going to make their videos blow up. There are already people, there are already accounts on Instagram and on social media that are favored by the algorithm, and that the algorithm knows this is what this person does, so we're going to keep pushing this person's content because it gets great engagement. So why would I start pushing this other person's content that's a new creator that's doing the same thing with the same format, but probably to a slightly lower standard? And what I realized with the Will It Sourdough thing, or when I was thinking up of, I wanted to think of something different. Obviously, people love series. It gives people a reason to hit follow and stick around. But you have to do something different on social media. I was making videos of how to make a delicious steak, how to make eggs, or whatever it is. And, they get all right views, and I feel like I was making them to a decent enough quality. But there are already hundreds, if not thousands, of other people making those same videos in their style, probably to a better standard, that the algorithm already knows gets good engagement, and so that keeps getting pushed. But what I did with the Will It Sourdough was I thought, no one does this. People put some fun things in sourdough, but no one goes, oh, can you make a lemon meringue pie sourdough? Can you make a carbonara sourdough? Can you make an Oreo sourdough? And so I was like, that's my thing. That can be my thing. That's unique. And in doing so, I realized that, I'm not going to make money out of the sourdough videos, but I am going to bring more eyes and more attention to me and to what I'm doing, which is a private chef.
100%. Now, let me ask you this one more question on the social media front, and then one more for a bit. Now, I feel like a lot of the content creators that I've talked to, like yourself, usually have a 5, 10, 30x following on TikTok compared to what they have on Instagram. I'd be curious from your side. I think it's inverted for you. Is there a reason why I don't have TikTok personally? Do you have you prioritized Instagram over TikTok? What's that calculus like?
Yeah, it is, and I haven't thought of that before actually. But you are right. I just actually was on Instagram, TikTok this morning, and I realized that I've hit 70K on TikTok, which is cool. But I pay so much more attention to Instagram. I feel like with the stories as well, I share more stories. I engage with comments. I very rarely engage with comments on TikTok because it's just another thing to take up my time. And I'm not sitting here saying, oh, I'm so busy, I never have time to do these things. But it's not an extra priority. I feel like my community is kind of on Instagram. And TikTok, it's just kind of playing second fiddle. And I do just post everything I post on Instagram to TikTok. And maybe it is something I should start to consider, that I should pay more attention to TikTok. But right now I feel like I don't necessarily have the time, nor do I want to give more of my spare time towards that. Yeah, and some people say you want to edit videos differently for Instagram and for TikTok.
Right, exactly. That's what we're saying. Right?
But holy shit, I'm not sure if I want to do that. Hey, if I want to spend more time editing.
Now, to that end, what do you want to do with your free time? I know you're wrapping up a current gig in New York. Outside of the private chef life, I guess one, how are you going about on the business development front, finding new folks to go and be a private chef for, or are you, pulling on more clients? Slash, outside of your time in the kitchen, what are you doing in your free time?
What am I doing in my free time? Sorry, I was a bit confused by that. As just what? Can you ask that again in like a shorter way?
So, like, we're talking about not wanting to take on more on your plate on the social media front, which is understandable.
Yes.
On one side of it, your job is obviously being a private chef and providing great meals for the families that you're cooking for. So that's part of the job. The other part of the job is, making sure you have a pipeline of other gigs moving forward. So what's that like for you? And then when you're not in the kitchen and building out your business, what are you doing on the side to stay sane? And, what makes Herc tick outside of the kitchen?
Well, I'm not. I've noticed inside the last couple months or so that I acknowledge that I don't always have the best relationship with being able to switch off. As a private chef and being your own boss, you kind of do feel like you are always switched on. And then when you're not cooking for people, you are thinking about creating content. And that means I might be in the, sitting down watching TV with someone or with friends or something, and I'm editing videos. And so I do struggle to kind of separate myself, but I feel like in the last couple of months I've done a much better job being a bit more aware of that. But yeah, I mean, I don't really know how else to answer that question. Are you asking like generally what I do in my spare time, or?
Yeah, exactly. Like what do you do for fun? I mean, I know there's the cliche of never trust a skinny chef. I had another chef on, Leslie Dursa, who said she thinks the opposite, because if you trust a chef that's overweight, then they're not going to be.
It's a representation of the food.
Right, exactly. So, what are you?
Yeah.
Exercise.
No.
Like what?
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. I still enjoy food outside of my profession, outside of my job. I still enjoy cooking for friends or for family, things like that. We have a piece of land in the far north of New Zealand. The far north of New Zealand is quite remote, somewhat similar to where I am in upstate New York right now, actually. Completely off grid, and we live out of shipping containers that have been tricked out, in a sense, that have been turned into quite bougie environments. So the shipping container themselves are 12 feet and they act as a bedroom, and you build your living spaces around it. I've got a nice, I share bits of it on my social media. And having that as a hobby when I have spare time is such an amazing thing. Like if I get a spare bit of money, or a week where, because the way my job works is from time to time you suddenly go, oh shit, I've got no work for a week, and that's fantastic. That's amazing. That means I can make some content which might be paid or just organic natural content, but that also means I might have a few days if the weather's good to go up to our batch and work on the container. It's a very it's difficult to explain it without going too in depth on it all, but it is just a very fulfilling thing to create your own space. And yeah, I've just moved into a new house 6 months ago, which again, I've in the last 6 months, with the help of my parents, my dad's an architect and my mum's interior designer, so they've helped me create this space and make it feel comfortable for me. Painting the house, working on the gardens, I get a hell of a lot of satisfaction out of growing something. I think we all do as humans. It's so funny, you see people that grow tomatoes out on the windowsill, and they work, they grow, they try them, and they're like, oh my goodness, they're so delicious. Or they grow strawberries or things like that, and it's such a satisfying feeling. And I'm definitely very much in touch with the fulfillment that you get from growing something and then eating it. So yeah, really enjoying time spent in the garden. And when it comes to health and fitness, the food that I cook for people, I think is quite healthy. I'm never gonna, it's not unhealthy at all, but I still try and I still try and eat well, and a variety, and the food that I cook for myself is always delicious. I put time and energy into that. I'm not like, when I worked in kitchens, it was you'd be cooking fantastic food for people for 12 hours or whatever, and then you'd sit there and eat like a bowl of old chips, and that would be that. But now I feel like I value what I put in my body. I'm aware more than ever, especially with the awareness on health these days and the energy and attention that is on it, especially with all the different podcasts that you listen to. People, there are all these different diets and things like that, and I do want to make sure that I'm eating well, and so I do enjoy still eating a healthy diet when I'm not cooking for people, and I enjoy exercise and getting outside. What's been beautiful about working upstate here is going for a walk in the morning or going for a workout in the middle of the day. You're just in the most beautiful, quiet environment. And every time I exercise, if I haven't worked out for a couple of days or gone for a run or gone for a walk or something, I come back from that bit of exercise and I go, holy shit, why do I not make sure I do this every single day? You know what I mean? And sometimes you don't always have the time, but you feel so good. You get so much out of it. So I do try and keep quite an active lifestyle outside of work, which can be difficult from time to time because working as a chef can be on your feet for a long time.
Your point about editing videos really resonates. I remember I was on a ski trip with my friends and a podcast coming out the next day, and I was sitting on the couch after the long day, and I was like, I gotta make sure I schedule this post out, get it out. So it is interesting, especially when our businesses are here. It's pretty hard to separate church and state a bit, but to your point, as long as you're conscious of it and doing your best to separate it out. Now you mentioned, go ahead, sorry.
Well, I was just going to agree with that, and it's difficult to keep yourself aware of those things because you almost need someone to say, hey, you shouldn't be editing at like 8 o'clock at night now. This is when we have dinner sort of thing, or this is when you switch off. And I haven't always had that. So it's all about balancing, I guess, and knowing, if you're your own boss, knowing when to turn off,
So I'm actively thinking about that all the time. Now, as we round out here, let me fire some rapid fire questions your way, and then
go on.
So you mentioned, when you're in the kitchen 12 hours, you get done with for the day, bag of chips or whatever. You'll dig into that. What is your cheat meal? Are you ordering pizza? Are you ordering Chinese food? If you are just gassed and who are you pressing on DoorDash to get you what you need?
Exactly. What am I ordering on a Sunday evening while I'm a bit hungover? Exactly. I think pizza. Hey, when I was doing a bit of work in New York in 2019, I would always, if I was hungover on Sundays, I'd always make sure I get dollar slice. Hey, I think pizza is the big one for me. Hey, kind of like you, I love all those carbs. Yeah. And it's the best. It's one of the best. It's one of the best things alongside Asian food that travels well. You know what I mean? You can order it, and it doesn't matter that it's been sitting in the back of someone's moped. You can throw it back in the oven real quick, just heat it back up, and get it nice and crispy.
You get it. How about dream collaboration? If you're posting shared content with someone, who would you love? Doesn't have to be in the food world, but if you wanted to do like a shared post, it's Herc, Noble Food, and someone else. Who would that be?
I mean, it is going to be in the food world. I mean, there are two people. There are so many more than just these two people, but these two people stick out to me quite a lot. One is Jamie Oliver, and it sounds kind of ridiculous, but like I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing if it wasn't for Jamie Oliver, which is kind of amazing, just because he's just this TV celebrity chef. And then there's another guy. Do you know Joshua Wiseman?
Yeah, of course. I just watched a video of his the other day.
He is so good. That's the sourdough video that I started watching, his sourdough video in lockdown. That's what I learned with. He's funny. The food he makes is great. He's engaging. He's constantly coming up with new things. And he, again, is a huge inspiration. I probably wouldn't be doing what I'm doing if it wasn't for him. So those two right there, dream collaborations for me. Amongst other people that I have got things lined up with that I'm very excited to collab with, and other people that I dream of collaborating with. There are lots of really awesome people in the food industry that I would love to collaborate with.
Go check out Josh Weissman's Architecture Digest. He just did a tour of his home in Austin. It's freaking sick. I watched it on Sunday morning.
I watched that like 2 weeks ago.
So good.
I know. So good, man. So good.
Now, last one for you. If you were able to be a private chef for anyone, who would you want to go and, that's your full-time gig. That's who's hiring you for a year.
Yeah. There was a time when I thought about how cool it would be to be a private chef for like a movie star or a, oh no, actually what it was I'm a huge football fan, soccer, sorry. And I support Arsenal in London. And that's another thing that takes up a lot of my time outside of work. I pay a lot of time to that. I listen to a lot of podcasts about football, specifically about Arsenal. And I always thought it would be so cool to be a private chef for a footballer or something like that. But then I realized, no, of course it wouldn't be, because they'd be eating a really strict, really very boring diet. Yeah,
that's such a paradox. It'd be like your dream, like you'd be cooking, overnight oats, some rice and chicken and broccoli, and rice, chicken, and broccoli.
Exactly. So that would be the one thing that would kind of ruin it for me. It would be very cool, actually. There are some big content creators that I enjoy outside of food, and I think it would be a really awesome experience to be like a private chef for someone else who I've looked up to, who creates great content, and to be around people that are creating lots of content all the time. That would be a very cool experience.
There's probably some dystopian, YouTube show future that Mr. Beast will run that's content creator house, where you get the best fitness creator plus the best private chef, or food creator plus the sleep optimization person, and you put them all in a house together, and you refine everyone's crafts all together. It'd be probably a pretty boring series unless you have like those passion for all those niches. But I'm sure someone out there has thought about pulling everyone into one house, like one TikTok house, and making good content that way. Now, Herc, as we round out here, I'd be curious, what's coming down the docket for you? What should people be on the lookout for? Where can people find you on social media to learn more about your brand, cookbook, whatever you want to plug? Fire away now.
Well, you can find me on Instagram and on TikTok at Hercules Level Food. Exciting things that are coming up. So I've just finished a stint here in New York, which is a really awesome opportunity. I just had work in the UK, which was in London, which was amazing. I'm about to fly in about 4 days' time back to the UK, and then go and do some work in the south of France for a luxury sort of stint for 2 weeks, which is very exciting. And back here in New York again in August and October for 2-week periods. And what's been really cool about this experience just now is people have seen through my Instagram that I'm in New York, and the amount of people that have messaged and gone, can we do something together while you're in New York? Whereabouts in upstate? Oh my God, I'm in Beacon. And I look it up and I'm like, oh man, these people are already like half an hour away. And there are people that follow. It's quite surreal to realize, oh, there are people that follow me, and they're in different parts of the world, and I'm here, and they're going, holy shit, you're right here. Can we do something? And there are people messaging me now going, hey, how long are you in America for? And I'm going, oh, I'm out in 4 days time, but I'm coming back. And they go, can we fly you down to Dallas, Texas to do something for us? Can you come? Someone's in Washington. Can you do something for us in Washington? And it's amazing, man. It's exciting, the opportunities that are coming up, and it's kind of as a result of throwing shit at a wall on social media for a while and figuring out what sticks. And the Willet sourdough thing, people aren't asking me to cook for them because they've seen my Willet sourdough videos, but they might have found me through my Willet sourdough videos and then seen the private chef content and gone, oh shit, we could get him to do something. So more exciting opportunities are popping up, and yeah, I am very excited. The cookbook is in the very early stages, so that hopefully happens inside the next 2 years or so. I didn't want to release a cookbook too early, because I feel like so many people release cookbooks, and you look and you go into a store and you go, who is that? 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 Why do I want your cookbook?
Hercules Noble. That's gonna fly. The name alone will help that.
Yeah.
Well,
Also, people constantly ask about my aprons. People constantly ask about my aprons. I will drop merch before Christmas time. I promise you that.
Love it, man. Love it.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. I'm excited for what's to come for you. I have a bunch of. I believe in you, and I'm excited to see what's around the corner, and excited to link up with you here soon.
Well, thank you very much, Arjun. Honestly, it's a pleasure, and thank you for thinking I'm interesting enough in the first place to have on the podcast. It's been a pleasure.
Love it, man. I appreciate you, dude. This was awesome.